see a ton of things about mental toughness, and it sounds good, right? But it's kind of like, you know, when you were playing sports growing up and, you know, your coach told you to be confident. And it's like, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be confident? What does it mean to have mental toughness? So first, I want to define for you how I see mental toughness. So this is my definition. Mental toughness is the ability and the willingness to endure emotional pain within the context of a larger goal and vision. All right. Now, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to break down each piece of that definition, but let's first realize that most people are not mentally tough. Most people are mentally soft. So here's what they do. Number one, they rarely claim aggressive and challenging goals. So I'm curious for you all right here, like, how are you the person who's tentative when it comes to establishing what you want? Those people are mentally soft. They play it safe, or they do what feels more reasonable or realistic. Most people, they take entirely too long to spring into aggressive action. So even if they have a larger goal, they waste precious time knowing they're not doing everything they can do to succeed. So some of you might have big goals, but you're not moving fast enough. You're taking too long to spring into action. And then, of course, a lot of people are not willing to go through tough things. So they rely heavily on comfort and ease, and easily show signs of frustration and overwhelm when things go wrong. So I always appreciate all the love on IG, but I imagine some of you all spend entirely too much time on IG, running away from reality, not spending enough time working on your craft, accomplishing your goals. And then, of course, most people delude themselves into thinking they're tough because they read books or lift weights. Yet when it comes to the emotional challenges, the things that really prevent us from securing the real things we want, they're cowards, of course. So for you, you cannot be like most people. And I know you know that because, number one, you're here, right? So you're looking to build that mental toughness, but your goal has to be to have the courage to set those aggressive goals, those visions and standards, and then, of course, have the willingness to endure the emotional hardships that are inevitably going to arise as you go after what you want. You will have hardships, and the degree to, like, the bigger the goal, the more the hardships. All right. So mental toughness is about being able and willing to endure those emotional hardships. So let's talk about emotional pain. All right. So emotional pain is very important to be able to endure, because the emotions is what causes all the suffering, right? Even when you think about something like the coronavirus right now, the virus itself is not causing the suffering, at least when people are afraid of it, right? It's the emotions that come from our thoughts and our beliefs. So even when we deal with quote unquote physical suffering, like getting hurt or sick, it's our beliefs and our thoughts that exaggerate and worsen the physical pain. And then, of course, this turns into emotional pain or suffering. So it's important for us to understand what emotional pain is, what I mean by that. So the key mental breakthrough is to realize, John, that events and circumstances, the things that happen to us, don't cause the suffering. It's the meaning behind the events that we give them. All right. So this is really, really important. This is mindset 101. So these meanings or beliefs are what cause the suffering. And then, of course, this suffering then shows up in the form of negative emotions. So think about it: frustration, anxiety, uncertainty, despair, hopelessness, anger, being pissed off, being bored, feeling lazy. All of these negative emotions, these are just, this is internal. So if COVID-19, for example, has taken away your ability to perform, play your sport, or operate in your business, and it's caused you to then feel depressed or frustrated, it's your beliefs that are causing the pain, not the actual circumstances. So here's a very, very simple two-step approach to find out what beliefs that are actually causing your pain. So for example, think about something right now that's pissing you off and ask yourself, how do you feel about X, Y, or Z? How do you feel about your sport? How do you feel about business? How do you feel about your relationship? Whatever it is that's frustrating you or making you angry. And then ask yourself, what would you have to believe in order to feel like that? So what we have to realize is that the negative beliefs, though, right? So while I just talk about these emotions and these painful emotions, and now you're probably realizing, oh, some of you are probably thinking, oh, it's my fault, I'm the one who's causing it. Negative beliefs are not a bad thing. All they are signals for you, showing you where you're out of alignment with what you want. All right. So we feel these negative emotions because there's something we want or that we expect. And the way we're interpreting the current circumstances, our beliefs, they're not matched up with those desires. All right. So really quick, I want you guys to bring to mind something it is that you want right now that feels a little bit outside of your grasp. Maybe it's a yearly goal or something within 5 years, 2 years, etc. Something that you really want. When negative beliefs show up as it relates to that, it's showing the disparity between what you want and what you believe is true. And as soon as you get those things in alignment, that's as soon as you'll accomplish your goal, when you're in alignment. So let me give you some examples. Let's say you want to make lots of money and be wildly successful in your business, but it feels like it's not possible because you've been failing. Feels like it's taken too long or it's not possible. Let's say you want to become a professional at the highest level, but it feels frustrating because you haven't got the tryout that you want. Mental toughness comes in. It's crucial because it's finding and discovering the discrepancies in the belief that we can then grow into alignment and manifest what we want. So mental toughness is about enduring that emotional pain. This is important. This is why emotional pain, I don't want you to think about it as a bad thing. So with some conscious redirection of your thoughts and beliefs, basically enduring emotional pain becomes the mental weightlifting that you need in order to build belief. So for example, Tom, when you go into the weight room, right, you put on extra weight and you push yourself, you expose yourself to pain for the purpose of growth. So once our beliefs are strong enough, what we want will be true. That's what pure alignment feels like. So this is the joy, Michael, when all the hard work that you put in the off season and you endure the trials of the season and you finally win the trophy. That's pure alignment. The pure happiness when you land your first big client. I can still remember when I got my first client and I'd moved from a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife and children. And I was then able to get my wife a washing machine and dryer, which is a big deal. That's the most important purchase I've ever made, because I just came from a small apartment where you had to put the quarters into the laundromat, right? And that was a big deal. That was pure alignment. It was what I wanted, and my beliefs were now in alignment. So that feeling of ecstasy when you're on a date with someone new after being lonely for so long, that's alignment. So alignment is what our goal is. And this is to believe the things that lead to what we want. Mental toughness is required to get into this alignment. It takes time to find the alignment, just like it takes time to build the muscle, just like it takes time to lose the weight. These are laws of nature. So you have to put in that work that equals that. But mental toughness is about enduring the emotional pain along the way. And you guys are going to find out what happens when you stay away from that emotional pain, which is a deadly mistake. So it's about being willing to acknowledge and feel that misalignment, and then the patience and persistence to get into alignment. So for mental toughness to be relevant, you've got to have a larger goal or mission. All right. So mental toughness is not about being reckless or suffering needlessly. All right. It's not about doing random challenges and shit like that. In order for your suffering to have some meaning behind it, you want to have a larger goal or mission. Otherwise, you won't really have the motivation to endure the pain. We all as humans are just naturally lazy, naturally soft. So you're not going to have the motivation to endure the pain without some larger payoff. So being mentally tough is not about becoming a superhuman. It's about getting access. It's about enlisting the emotions that are already inherent in you as a human. So the bigger the goal or vision, the tougher you will be able to become. So the bigger your goals are, it's just like the more weight you want to lose, the more weight you'll lose. Like the stronger you want to be, the stronger you will become. So it's really up to you in terms of having that larger grand goal or mission. All right. So it requires courage to decide that you want something. So by deciding what you want, you are already exposing yourself to the reality that you don't yet have it. So athletes here, I'll just ask you very simply, and you don't have to answer, but I want you to be thinking. When an athlete says they want to play overseas as opposed to play in the biggest league in their sport, most of the time, now I'm not saying this is true for everyone, and this is in my experience with all the athletes that I've worked with. I have had several athletes who after time finally admit that what they really want is to be in the NBA, not to necessarily play overseas. But when they say, I want to play overseas, they're basically lowering the bar, and they're only going to go so far as that. They're not going to challenge themselves for NBA level, if that makes sense. So it requires courage for an athlete to say, yes, I want to go to the league, even though it's not looking good for them, even because what's going to happen is now they have to feel that pain. They have to feel that discrepancy. They have to realize how far away they are. But being able to realize that and face that emotional pain, that's what mental toughness is all about. So the awareness, of course, once you realize what you want, the awareness of not having it will elicit pain, most likely in a form of hunger or desire, sometimes frustration, sometimes a sense of helplessness. So right now, some of you have goals as it relates to your business, and you feel helpless as to how you're going to get them. Feeling helpless is not a bad thing. The emotions show up because there's a desire for that, right? And then a set of beliefs that are not in alignment with that desire. So as a matter of fact, the more helpless if you feel high levels of helplessness, that means you want that really bad and you're really out of alignment. So isn't that good to know? Because now it's our job to put ourselves back in alignment. So your willingness to feel that pain will cause you to grow and evolve. That's what mental toughness is all about. All right. So here's the other reality. Everyone has the ability. You have to have the willingness to endure the emotional pain. So humans, we're wildly tough and resilient by nature. Otherwise, we wouldn't survive. All right. I'm sure most women who give birth don't probably think they can do it, but they do it. Why? Because humans are resilient and tough it's just by nature. What matters most here is the willingness to do it. So you have to volunteer for the suffering instead of life bringing it to you. Being mentally tough is about not walking around to get in shape, but actually going into the gym and implementing something deliberately to get in shape. You guys ever know those people who try to act like because they, walk around a lot, they're getting in shape? Like usually you're not going to get in great shape by that, right? Or someone who works for a moving company and thinks they can get buff just by lifting, chairs and seats. Surely that will help, but you're going to have to get into the gym. You're going to have to get on a plan. So to be willing means to be aware of the reality of suffering and then accept the need for it. So that's what my challenge is to you all, to be aware of the reality that you're going to suffer and then accept the need for your suffering. You have to go through that pain. There's no way around it. So when people don't have the willingness, they deny the pain and the need for it. And guess what? Denying pain is what causes people to numb the pain. So let's talk about some ways that people deny pain. And I'm curious, as I go through these, which one do you go to? Most people, when they feel emotional pain, the answer is more food. A lot of people, it's more sleep. I know for me, when I'm going through shit, I'm much more likely to sleep in. It's harder for me to wake up when I'm dealing with emotional pain. More drugs, more sex, more work. A lot of people work more accomplishments. A lot of people try hard to get accomplishments, which are not necessarily a bad thing, but guess what? It's still a denial of the pain. More friends. A lot of people can't stand the idea of being alone. So they they want to hang around people all day instead of facing their pain. More religion, so that they can call it fate and act as if there's no way for them to actually take control of their lives. So running from pain will not make your pain go away. And it certainly is not going to help you get what you want. It will come back and show up in other forms. And usually what I found is it comes back at a time when you don't want it to the most. So you have to show the courage to face the pain. So if this is so true, then why now do people lack mental toughness? Why are so many of us so soft? So the simple answer, honestly, the simplest answer is because we're animals, right? So, and the most dominant cognitive bias that we have is to avoid pain and go towards pleasure. So humans, we're wired to be lazy. So in the interest of survival, we tend to run away from things that cause pain, right? So it's not our, enduring emotional pain is not, it's instinctually a priority for us. However, though, even as us here, who I believe all of us are a degree of evolved humans, right? We see the value and the benefit of pain in the context. There are more reasons why mental toughness, especially now, is increasingly difficult to build. And again, I want to challenge you not to think for someone else. I want you to think of this for you. Think of this for you, how this applies to you. So the first reason why most people, yourself included, lacks mental toughness is it's too easy to numb the pain and find pleasure. It's easy now. So think about with technology, humans, we found new ways to make what used to be difficult super easy. How easy it is to cook food, how easy it is to get places. Before, I remember my dad, he used to go on trips to California and shit. He used to have actual maps, you know what I mean? Like paper maps, you know, and then it got to the point where you could print out the directions on MapQuest. Remember MapQuest? And then later, you know, we went to iPhones, but usually you used to have to actually read a map. Now you don't have to. You can just plug in the address. Now, of course, this is positive, and this has created a lot of areas for growth and positive changes in so many areas for us personally, as well as a race. However, this has also left us as humans vulnerable in the area of mental toughness. Because look, as easy as it is for you to right now order something on Amazon. By the way, how many of you get frustrated now that it takes like a week? In that a trip, we get mad. It takes like a week now to drop some shit off on Amazon. Amazon has spoiled us, right? But it's as easy as it is to buy something on Amazon. It's just as easy to find a vice to distract you, to numb you and give you pleasure to avoid the pain of your reality. So some of you have valuable realities you need to face right now, but you're not doing it because it's too easy. So right now, literally consider how easy it is to watch hours of TV daily. Give me a thumbs up if you guys like the show, The Office. So I love the show, The Office. I don't see any thumbs up. I'm sure there's some. But this weekend, no bullshit, and I don't even watch a lot of TV. I watched 5 episodes of The Office without even blinking, without even realizing. And those are 20 to 30-minute episodes. That's damn near 3 hours. That's about 3 hours of television. How easy it is. And ask yourself, how many hours do you spend watching television? How many hours do you spend mindlessly searching YouTube? How easy is it to gamble online, sports, etc.? Some of you, 2 hours a day on your phone, on your social media is a light day. Light day. There's some of you here literally who spend 4 to 6 hours on social media. So look how easy it is. Like anytime there's some shit happening, all you have to do is go somewhere right in your pocket, and it's a easy distraction. Think of how easy it is to eat rich and delicious foods. How simple it is. There's some of you who are in countries where you probably look at, like, at least in America, how easy it is to have shit delivered to your door like that. Rich and delicious foods. And by rich, I mean unhealthy. Shit that tastes real good. It's actually cheaper to eat unhealthy. Would you agree? It's cheap. It's easy. So because we're surrounded with this ease, this pleasure and comfort, and none of us here are exempt from that. By virtue of you being here, right here on this virtual call, you are a beneficiary of that ease. We never naturally gravitate towards these things. It's our nature. Now, another reason why a lot of people lack mental toughness is that they have no goals or vision that's been established. So most people don't have a clear vision or goals. And so because of this, the pain they endure has no real meaning. So who wants to feel pain without a payoff or reward? Who wants to go to the gym and work out when they don't have a real goal? Who wants to go through what Benito probably puts Michael through? You know what I mean? If they don't have goals that actually justify why they're doing it. So now, if you're thinking like, I don't have any goals or vision established, that's a huge reason why you lack the mental toughness that you could have. And then, of course, most people don't know how to practically build mental toughness, which, of course, we're going to be going through in depth here. But even if someone did see the need for it and develop the motivation, most people are like, how do we do it? And of course, most people shout the need for it, but they're not explaining the practical ways to build it. So let's talk about now some differences between the mentally weak and strong, and let's paint a clear picture. So when it comes to being mentally tough, there's a lot of practical and visible benefits of having it. All right. So, but with the concept as subjective as mental toughness, it's important to be able to identify the differences between those that have lots of mental toughness and those who lack it. So here's the 3 main differences that you can see between the mentally weak and strong. And I want you to compare yourself to these standards. So the first difference that we see is the length of the meltdown. All right. And you all here know what I mean by meltdown. all of us here melt down from time to time. I don't know how often, and all of our meltdowns look differently. Some of us is breaking down crying. Some of us it's burst of anger. Some of us is burst of low motivation or, laziness. So all of us experience lapses in our motivation, energy on the way towards a goal. We all quote unquote melt down. Now, and I can imagine everyone here starts off their campaigns very excited and with plenty of motivation. And then guess what? Life happens. Like Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? So you have an argument with your spouse. A family member dies. Some of you have lost family members to COVID. A coach embarrasses you in front of somebody. How many guys have athletes have ever had a coach just completely humiliate you while you're performing your sport? You break up with your girlfriend or boyfriend, or better yet, they break up with you unexpectedly. You wake up late. Some of you have something like as simple as waking up late that fucks up your entire half of your day. True or false? So what I've found, whatever the event, mentally tough people, they find a way to get through that meltdown, that event, without sacrificing their momentum to the degree that weak people do. Does that make sense? So mentally weak people will take days, weeks, or months to recover from something. Mentally tough people don't have many quote unquote bad days. It doesn't mean that they don't have days where they feel negative emotions, but they get through it quickly and they know how to balance faster. Make sense? Recovery time is crucial. So that's a big difference between the mentally tough and weak. Also, clarity and speed of action. All right. So mentally weak people, they move like sloths. They're slow, lazy, infrequent action is their calling card. They're doing things every once in a while. So the mentally tough, they have much more clarity, which means they know what they want and they're clear with their plans of action. And this, of course, leads to more speed. They just simply get more done in less time. It's about momentum. And then lastly, the degree of aggressiveness. So mentally weak people are not aggressive. So I was a running back and played football, and they mentally weak people, they resemble the running back who hits the hole tentatively. They're like, chopping their steps, right? They're not hitting the hole like an Adrian Peterson. They're getting the ball and they're looking around wondering where they should go. And of course, what happens, they get flattened by the first defender that they see. So the mentally tough, what they do is they hit the hole fast and strong like an Adrian Peterson with force and power. And even when they do get knocked down, they just get back up faster. So their aggressiveness becomes persistence. And so eventually the opposition begins to wear down, much like a running back who hits the hole hard every single time they get the ball. Even though they're not getting a lot of yards, eventually it leads to a big run. So those are the three differences. So now what I want to jump into is now the foundations of mental toughness. All right. So now we're going to start getting practical and start looking at what does it take to really build the infrastructure to support the pain, of course, that you're going to be experiencing, because that's essentially what I'm asking you to do. I'm telling you that to build mental toughness, you're going to have to allow yourself to suffer and feel emotional pain more. So the question becomes, how do we do that in a structured way instead of just throwing you into the gym and telling you to lift weights and shit? How do we set up a routine and a structure to support a routine that can build mental toughness? So the first thing is to remember your pain's got to have context. All right. So your context for your pain is going to come from having clear-cut desires and goals so that you can be adequately motivated to build the belief and lift yourself out of suffering. The goal is not to suffer for no reason. The goal is to evolve through your suffering so that you can be in alignment, right? So before you get in the gym and push your body to exhaustion, you need to have a clear vision for your body and the reasons why you want it. Otherwise, you can't really expect yourself to go through the pain of those deadlifts, those squats, those sprints, right? So these are the three things that I want you to do first in order to build the infrastructure to support the mental toughness that you desire. First is you need to do a thorough reality inventory, all right? So ideally, I want you to spend literally 60 minutes to 2 hours on this. I want you to sit down and I want you to focus on what's true for you. So the pain of what's currently true for you is the best place to start. So this means simply identifying the things you're not satisfied with. What are you not happy with? and being able to face the pain that it's causing you. This is not the time to be grateful. It's not the time to be positive. It's the time to be honest with yourself, because when you're trying to be positive and grateful, unconsciously, those beliefs that you have are still there. So you're just hiding them. So by facing it, you're bringing it to light. So use these questions to take an inventory of your reality. And it's very simple. Just ask yourself, what are the elements of your current reality that you're most unsatisfied with? What are you pissed off about? What bothers you the most about your life right now? What right now is simply not the way that you want it? And you're going to feel some resistance towards this, I promise. You're going to want to try to tell yourself a positive story because you read a Tony Robbins book. You're going to tell yourself, oh, yeah, no, everything is great. I got my health and everything. I didn't ask you that. I'm asking you, what is not the way that you want it? And again, you have to be honest. This is what toughness is all about. You don't get in great shape by going into the gym and doing shit that you know how to do real well, right? You go into the gym and you expose yourself to new challenges and pain. So be honest, avoiding this will only leave you more stuck. So if this was a masterclass on how to make yourself feel like roses, then I would tell you just write down all the things you're grateful for. But that's not what it's about. It's about building mental toughness. It's about being tough. And I don't know for you, but as a youngster growing up playing football in a family of 4 boys raised by Nigerian pops, I value toughness, and I'm sure you guys value toughness as well. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. So it's not about we have to be clear. The next piece of your infrastructure is setting your vision. All right. So now that you're clear on your current reality, you have to set a vision. And I would suggest that you do this immediately after you do the inventory on your reality. So a vision is nothing more than a high level picture of what you're looking to become. I didn't say it had to be, written out. It doesn't matter what your vision, how your vision is represented. It's a picture. So when you get your vision ingrained enough, you'll know it, you'll feel it. It's more of a feeling than anything. And you can have a vision for anything, but we're going to start with creating a vision just for your overall life in general. But you can have a vision for anything of yourself as an athlete, the brand that you have for yourself as an athlete, for your role in your business. You can have a vision for your business. So it's very simple. Just ask yourself these questions to identify. What do you want to become in this life? If that's unclear for you, you can expect to be relatively weak. You can expect that. If you're not clear what you want to be in this here life, when you don't know, when you don't know how much time you have, that needs to be a high priority for you. So what do you want to become in this life? What do you stand for, what to stand for and represent? What do you ultimately want to accomplish here on this earth? Write out that vision on a sheet of paper. When you read it, you should feel good about it. It should feel great as you read it. All right. And don't overcomplicate it. Very simple. What is it that you want from your life? And then, of course, we need to set some goals. So before we can go about the process of building that mental toughness, we need to take that vision and now identify some clear goals. So a vision without goals is pretty much a daydream. Like it's not really going to create the energy needed to make shit happen. So by creating goals, which are shorter term checkpoints or objectives along the way, you give yourself even more clarity, which will make the pain you endure even more practical and relevant. So use these questions to help you identify your goals. Based on your vision, where do you want to be by the end of this year? What goals, if you accomplish them, would most further advance you towards the realization of your vision? So think about that. What do you want to be true by the end of this year? And you can even go down to the quarter and month. But I want you all to start with this year right now. And I want you to I'm going to give you guys about 60 seconds. And I want you to write in the chat, what is your number one most important goal you want to accomplish by the end of the year as according to your vision? Not some random shit, something that actually is going to advance you towards where you ultimately want to be. Number one goal. Great. So now that you guys got the idea, you got some goals set, right? And what I want to make sure of is that the goals make sense for your vision. See what I'm saying? So what does your vision need you to accomplish by the end of this year? If your vision were a person and it looked at your goal and was like, okay, that shit is cool, but that's not really what I need. Like that's not the greatest goal. You want a goal that's practically like, this is where I need to be as relates to my vision. All right. So now that we have that infrastructure set, now we can actually start building that mental toughness. All right. So the mental toughness infrastructure has been established. Now we can begin implementing some very practical tools that you can predictably and systematically use to become more tough. All right. These are very, very powerful tools. And I'm speaking generally at first, and then I'm gonna give you some very specific examples. All right. So the first key to building mental toughness is, number one, facing painful realities daily. Facing painful realities daily. All right. So facing your reality, especially when it's not the way that you want it. All right. When your reality is not what you want, facing it is not going to feel good. I can guarantee that. And it is precisely your beliefs about your reality that is causing you to have what you don't want. So by virtue of you looking at your reality and not feeling good about it, that's why you don't have it in the first place, right? So facing that reality is really important. So this is why it's so crucial to get in the habit of facing your realities daily, regardless of how you feel. This is what mental toughness is about. It's about allowing yourself to feel pain in context of what it is that you want. So most people, what they do is they use their negative emotions as a reason to stop facing the reality. They say, no, I don't want to hear that. It will make me feel bad. No, I don't want to see that. I won't like it. No, I don't want to open up my bank accounts. I'm not going to feel good when I do it. That's exactly why you have the results that you want. So by facing reality, by looking at it, exposing yourself to it consistently, you're exposing yourself to pain, right? Which will lead to the inevitable building of more positive belief through time, of course. So facing your reality is actually getting up under the bar. You know what I mean? So any of you who lift weights, you can't get strong by looking at the bar. You got to get up under the bar. So facing that reality is that. Mental toughness, if you want to build that in the way you want to build muscle, you got to get up under the bar, and that's facing the shit that's true. So here are some examples of realities to face daily. Your money and finances. Check your accounts. Check your numbers often. It doesn't feel good when you check it. That's why you need to check it more until it starts to feel good. You need to check it. Your weight and your body metrics. Step on the scale. You need to know how much you weigh, if that's an area that's important, of course. Tough conversations with coworkers, family, etc. This is the hardest shit. True or false? This is the shit you have to do. How many of you all avoided someone because you knew you didn't want to talk about the shit that was going to have to be talked about? That is not mentally tough. That's mentally soft. That's you running, not from something physical. There's a lot of big buff people who cannot have a conversation. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's mentally weak. That's soft. Mentally tough is having the ability to have your armpits sweat when you're having a conversation. It's being willing to have your heart pumping like this. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I'm the third of four boys. I was the quiet one. I was the shy one. No one, there might be some people here right now who know me from childhood. I just posted this on my Facebook earlier. They put like, oh shit, is that Niyi? Yeah, it's me. It's me. It really is. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this is not something that I normally, this is not a part of my quote unquote nature. I still get nervous to this day when I'm around groups of people. I'm socially awkward, quite frankly. I still get nervous speaking to people all over the world, like right now, who I don't know. And all of you could and probably are judging me in some way. That shit doesn't feel good all the time. That's scary as shit. But if I use that as a reason to not say what I want to say, that's mentally weak. Do you understand? So the more you face reality, what's going to happen is the less painful it will be. If you can't do 10 push-ups right now, the more you do push-ups and fail to do push-ups when you try, the easier 10 push-ups will be. That's a fact. So, and because you also have goals, you're naturally, when you face this reality, going to be more motivated and driven to make the progress as you face it. So there's studies that show people who simply step on a scale begin to lose weight. because they naturally just unconsciously become more motivated because they see what's true. I don't know about for you guys, but always around Christmas time, I always imagine that I'm gonna be disciplined, and I always fail to reach the level of discipline. And you know what's so funny is I always weigh myself less around Christmas time. I step on the scale less because I don't want to see it. That's mentally weak. And guess what usually happens? I weigh more than I'd like. Now, what would happen if I stepped on the scale every single day as a matter of habit and saw the weight creeping up? You think twice. So it's the only thing stopping someone from doing that is fear of feeling the feeling of failure. It's a feeling. It's not even a real thing. The weight on the scale is not going to jump up and slap me. It's not going to hurt me. But it's my beliefs about it. Does that make sense? So it isn't the reality. You have to remember that it isn't the reality that's causing you pain. It's your beliefs about your reality. So building belief is the goal, and it requires toughness, mental toughness to do this. You got to get in the gym. You got to get up under the bar. The next key to building mental toughness, and a lot of you are not going to enjoy this, but it just is what it is, and it's extremely, extremely practically valuable. Deprive yourself of comfort on purpose. My kids frequently get upset with me because I create challenges often, specifically designed to create physical discomfort. So if we're riding in the car and my son Tonchi's like, "Daddy, it's cold," roll the window up. I'm gonna roll all the windows down just so he can feel some pain. If it's too hot, turn the AC on. I'm rolling all the windows up. Learn how to deal with physical pain. So we've become so soft because being soft is easy. Remember, all of us here, right? So there's comfort everywhere. Your bed. How many got I love laying down on my bed at night. It's like one of my favorite parts of my day. I got 2 pillows. I love the feeling of the pillows. I love how soft the covers are. I love it. I enjoy it. I love taking hot showers. So you got your phone and shit. You got restaurant. That's what I miss most about this whole coronavirus thing. I miss going to restaurants. I'm introverted by nature, so I don't really give a fuck about much else just from a personal standpoint, but I miss going to a restaurant. I like people coming to me and asking me what I want to eat. You know what I mean? And then going to get it and feeling happy about getting it for me. I enjoy that. Our computers, we got heat, air conditioning and shit. If you're not careful, you'll grow so used to these physical comforts that you'll then become vulnerable to any misfortune or inconvenience. So the relying on the physical comforts, that's going to lead to emotional and mental weakness and softness. And let me explain why. Normal people now panic when they run low on money, and low is all subjective, by the way. They panic when the heat goes out, when they actually have to walk somewhere. They panic when their phone takes a little bit longer than they thought. They panic. If these things take you off your game, and you have to be honest with yourself and take inventory, what type of shit really takes you off your game? Imagine when something significant actually happens. Think about when initially this whole coronavirus thing happened. People running around tripping over toilet paper and shit. As if that's the thing. Like, oh my gosh, like what? Like if that's the thing. That's softness, man. I saw this tweet that Meek Mill posted, and Meek Mill's from Philadelphia, and he said something profound. He was like, "Where I'm from," and he's from Philadelphia. He said, "Where I'm from, we don't have the ability to stock up on shit, so it's normal for us." And everybody's running to the grocery store. It's like, where I'm from, we never had enough money to stock up in that way. But look at people like, "Oh shit, I only have 3 weeks worth of toilet paper. What am I gonna do?" And here, before you start thinking this about toilet paper, look at that mindset. Now what happens if something gets taken from them? They get released from their job. What's going to happen? They fall into a deep downward spiral because they have a pattern of softness. So what you have to be able to do is see that pattern and understand that you're no different from any of us. We all have way too much comfort than what's good for us, I will say. And so it's for these reasons that you should consistently deprive yourself of comfort for the purpose of gaining self-reliance and mental toughness. All right. It may seem irrelevant, but it's not. So, and when you think about it, our most deeply rooted fear is fear of dying, which is very visceral for us. So when we expose ourselves to physical discomfort, you make this fear just a little less visceral. So I'll give you an example. I love going to rivers and shit and jumping off, cliffs into rivers. I remember taking my family there, and my oldest daughter, Riley, when we first, and I would make all my kids, you can swim. You got to jump into the river though. Like you got to jump up in there just to show me you got some courage. And she was not having it. And when you saw her reaction, it was physical. It was a visceral reaction. It's a fear. And this is true in all of us. So here are some very powerful and effective methods for depriving comfort. All right. The first one, fasting. Not only is going days without food amazing for your health, just do the research, but it also do the research. I'm not going to go into it now. There's a great, if you guys know Elliot Hulse, follow Elliot Hulse. He has an amazing protocol on fasting called rational fasting. It's incredible. You guys should do it. It's next level. But fasting also exposes your brain to stress, which causes it to grow. So it's like when you put your body in physical stress and it grows as a result. So once you fast, you're going to realize how often you think about food and how much you rely on it for comfort. You're going to realize it's going to be like 5 hours and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. Thinking about food, not thinking about your goals, not being locked in. And what's going to happen is once you expose yourself to that, because it's going to be emotional painful. That's a fact. It will be emotionally painful for you. And if fasting for 1 day is easy for you, then do it 2 days. Do it so that it's emotionally painful for you. Never even mind the health benefits. It's certainly not going to kill you. Now, again, be smart about it, of course, but you'll be surprised how long we can go without food. So make a habit of fasting at least 1 or 2 days per week. No food, just water and black coffee or tea. Try it out. And if that feels so crazy for you, then guess what? Fast 1 meal. Take off dinner. Go to sleep hungry. Train yourself to deal with physical comfort. Don't do it to lose weight. Don't do it just train yourself to be able to deal with something that's difficult and the confidence that will come when you know that you're able to do that. My kids were, and this was a couple years ago. And I think it was my oldest daughter again. I'm putting her on blast. She was afraid of going out, of taking the trash out in the dark. All my kids know, hey, you shouldn't have told me that. Now you got to be out in the dark. Now you got to go. Now you got to sit in the backyard and sit there in the dark and then what happens? Here's what happened, Benito. When she came back in, she feels confident because now she's overcome that fear. Few days of that, you good. Now you're not afraid of going out in the dark. So deprive yourself of that. Next thing, wake up early in the morning. It's another way to deprive yourself of comfort. Again, morning time is awesome, isn't it? You waking up, it's warm in the bed, especially in the wintertime. Get up when it's dark, when it's cold. Get up quickly. Leave the covers behind. If you develop this as a habit, I promise you that the pain that you experience in life will become less intense. I promise you. I'm not saying you won't deal with pain. You still will. But you will be mentally tougher as a result because you can get up. You guys know that feeling when you get up early in the morning and it just feels like, what the fuck am I doing awake? We all have that time. Make that time no longer the time that requires you to do that. Make 4 a.m. easy for you. Make 5 a.m. easy for you, 6 a.m. Some of you right now, if you wake up at 6 a.m., it's like, oh my God. Wake up at 6 a.m. Do it. Prove that you can do some shit that's difficult that other people cannot do. This gives you an edge, and all these little things add up. Another one, taking cold showers or submerging yourself in cold bodies of water. If you're the person who's like, oh, no, never, do it. No, I don't know any of us who just like, oh, yeah, cold water feels so awesome. Of course, it's painful. Do it. Prove to yourself you can do it. Doing this often will lead to a confidence and then, of course, a more willingness to experience pain. Because you're so used to getting up early in the morning, you're so used to fasting, that's going to bleed over to difficult conversations. That's going to bleed over to workout routines that you avoid. Another one, ask for raw feedback. Raw feedback. I'm talking about weaknesses, mistakes, errors. Ask people who you trust to tell you where you're weak, not where you're strong. Most people can't stand to do this, especially without some sort of acknowledgement of positives. No seasoning on that shit, just a slab of meat. I don't want no salt, no pepper, don't cook it, nothing. Just straight up. I want you to go the opposite way. Train yourself to hear the negative shit. Train yourself. For all of you athletes who are in the public eye, train yourself. Read the negative comments. Train yourself to hear the shit. Don't run from that shit. Don't do that. You know it's coming. Now, because you're afraid, now you can't go on your Twitter. You can't go and interact with it. You're afraid of some shit on a screen, some invisible shit. And you're supposed to be tough. Train yourself. Now, I didn't say you're going to feel good when you read those comments. I didn't say you would. You will feel not good. That's the whole point. Show that you could be weak. Show that. That's how you become strong. So the next piece, the next key is evaluate yourself with precision. All right. So I teach all my athletes how to do this very, very precisely. Most people do not get better. They just simply do things. So a lot of you have been working out, training, and you're not really getting better. Unfortunately, you make the same mistakes over and you repeat it. And the reason why is because you're not evaluating yourself. So what would happen if instead of simply doing that training, you went a different route? What if you took action, you trained, whatever it is you're doing, then you evaluated yourself against clear standards, right? And then you implemented changes based on what you learned, and you did so consistently. What if every day you evaluated yourself on certain things? So here's some activities that you can evaluate with clear numbers and metrics. Workouts. You should not just be going in the gym working out. You should be keeping track of shit. Now, what you keep track of depends. A combination of some results, some actions, right? But you should be identifying what is it that makes the difference? What are the measurables that I can focus on that would actually allow me to improve? And then I can measure myself against those things. Sales calls. If you do sales presentations, if your adherence to your routines and daily habits, you should be having percentages and shit at the end of the week. What's your percentage? I guarantee you, if some of you looked at the percentage of the days that you woke up on time, you would feel sick to your stomach. That's what you need. You need to feel sick to your stomach. That's good for you. It's not bad for you. So when you get in the habit of evaluating yourself, what happens is you expose yourself to the pain of your mistakes often. So because you expose yourself to that pain, you're now more motivated, which leads to growth. Does that make sense? You're motivated. So we can no longer look at pain as if it's a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's actually the thing that drives us the most. We're more motivated human beings by the avoidance of pain. So when you see that pain, now you're going to be able to run faster. Would you run fast if you didn't know that a tiger was chasing you? Or would you run faster if you look back and you realize the tiger was on your ass? You would run faster because of that pain, because of the awareness of the threat. The next thing is a very powerful technique. I'm excited to lay this out for you. So I call it mental cleansing. All right. So you want to cleanse yourself mentally every single day. It's a very powerful habit. So let me explain. So most high performers, right? And we're all kind of, especially men, I see this with men a lot. We kind of confuse mental toughness with acting tough, right? Which we typically associate toughness with someone who feels no pain. You know, they shrug in the face of obstacles and they're never fazed. So this sounds nice, right? This is a good fantasy, but this is never going to be the case for you or I. Our goal can be to be unfazed, but the reality is that to get to that level, we're going to be fazed. Does that make sense? So we're going to be fazed on the way to being unfazed. So being fazed means feeling negative emotions, being bothered, feeling pain. But this is what will make us tough. It's your awareness of these things. So we can't stuff these things down. Now, this does not mean you're going to be spending 3 hours with your therapist a day. This doesn't mean that you're going to be crying on the couch, eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream for another 2 hours. That's not what I'm saying. And if you actually do what I'm getting ready to show you here, you're going to be surprised how simple it is if you make it a habit of it. So someone becomes strong not by being strong all the time. You get physically strong by going to the gym and being weak as it relates to your weights. That's how you get strong. You get strong by being weak. So if you face the weight enough, you'll feel the pain and then you'll grow. So how do we face this emotional pain every day? It's called mental cleansing. Powerful shit. And it's super simple. So mental cleansing is all it is the simple process of being honest about your negative emotions and feelings. And then moving on. It's that easy. And it's powerful. So literally, I want you to, this is a graphic analogy. Consider it like taking a shit, like a mental shit. Taking a shit is nasty, but it's not. It's natural and it's required. And you feel good after you take a shit. When you feel the urge, you go to the bathroom, you do your thing. Just make sure you wipe your ass and you wash your hands, right? And I'm going to show you what that means in terms of this analogy. All right. So here's how to do it. And I want you guys to start this as early as tomorrow morning. And all you need is a blank piece of paper in order to do it. Every morning, and I do this after I wake up, brush my teeth, get dressed, etc. Go make my coffee. All right, I sit down after I feed my cats, and I take out a piece of paper. And I have a journal that's right there in the kitchen. And all I do literally is I just write all of the negative feelings and emotions that I'm feeling, all of the thoughts. And I don't know about you guys, but when I wake up, that's when the heavy shit is most there. It's lingering. So anything that's on my mind, I literally just write it out. Completely unfiltered. So, fuck, man, how am I going to figure this shit out? This and that. I'll just be writing names of people and negative emotions that come up as I hear the, you know what I mean? I actually begun the process doing that. Like I have the tendency to harbor emotions kind of, you know, and not really say things. So I write the names of people. I write the shit I'm feeling. And then sometimes I just observe as I write. And then if it feels right, I can write out my reactions to seeing my negative emotions. So I say, you know what, man, that's interesting. I notice I'm feeling real shitty about this. Boom, boom, boom. And no formula to follow. I don't want you to overthink this. Then after you're done purging, you just write out some things that you want. And don't force it. Don't be like, oh, hold on, I got to open up my phone and look at my goals. Nah, just, well, what do I want? After you done got rid of this shit, now what do you want? And take it as far as you want it to go. Like you don't have to, a lot of times I don't write but half a piece of paper. And you can't even barely read it because my handwriting's horrible. And then guess what I do after I'm done? I literally take the paper out and I crumple it up and I throw it in the trash. Now, if some really fucked up shit that I said, I tear it up and I flush it down the toilet just to make sure. Because hey, sometimes, you know, in the morning, like I said, that's when the dark shit is there and I gotta get rid of it. And what's so crazy, you be in the habit of doing this, you'll feel light, you'll feel agile, you feel mentally clean and refreshed, like taking a shower, like you feel great. You do this daily, you'll experience a flow and a mental agility throughout the day. And then, of course, because you're facing your negative shit every morning, you're less and less afraid of your negative emotions. And that's mental toughness. Now you're less afraid of what most people are afraid of. Most people are afraid of hearing feedback. Now you're going to be less afraid of that. More mentally tough. The next key is to create strategic challenges. All right. So a good challenge should be difficult to accomplish. That's, of course, what makes it challenging. So if it's difficult, that means you'll be exposed to weaknesses and inadequacies along the way. So this is why giving yourself challenges is such a powerful method to build mental toughness. Anything that scares you to some degree, but will ultimately lead to more of what you want. So it's not necessarily about choosing a random challenge. It's about choosing a challenge that will actually lead to more of what you want. So here's some examples. Something as simple as reaching out to a mentor to meet them. How many of you guys know someone that you would love to get to know, but you're just afraid to reach out? Asking someone out. Some of you have your eyes on somebody that you want to go out with, but you're afraid to ask them. That's a challenge. Buying a course or buying a book. For some people have a problem buying a book. That's a challenge. Traveling to a foreign country, moving, starting a business. These are all things that for some of us like have to happen at some point or another. And if you don't do it, you're not going to do it. Now, I assume all of you here have some degree of pride. So if you're presented with a challenge, you're going to want to rise to that challenge, right? Anyone here who started a business, that was a challenge to do because you had to leave something behind. And human beings, we don't like change. So the key is to make sure that the challenge has some significance. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time or further diluting yourself. So we don't want to take on pointless challenges. And then lastly is establishing your power circle. All right. So this may be the most simple and powerful way to build mental toughness. You guys know it's a well-known fact that you surround yourself with certain people, they influence you, right? So if you want to become mentally tough, then spend time with people who will help you become that. So here's some things that you should look for in the people that you spend time with. Number one, they should have high standards for themselves. Now, high is subjective, but you know what I mean by high standards. They should be able to tell you the truth. They should be vision and goal oriented. They should love to learn. These are just a few of the things that the people you surround yourself with should have. Here's who not to spend your time with. People who run away from conflict. People who get mad at you for telling them the truth. People, you know, the people who fish for compliments, they're always trying to elicit compliments as opposed to valuable, practical feedback that will actually help them grow. People who don't have goals. People with no clear standards. If you invest in your circle, it will be one of your most valued assets. All right. Now, there's a few things that many people, like a lot of us, honestly, I feel like it's out of intellectual laziness and an unwillingness to really study greatness. So how many of you guys ever saw something on Instagram or a tweet and then went and said, yo, I heard this, this, and that, when all you saw was one tweet? That's lazy if you think about it, right? So what a lot of us do is we see like a little quote that's like, you know, read books, it builds mental toughness. And then we assume that if we read books, we'll then become magically mentally tough. So what happens is we're really miscalculating what it takes to really be mentally tough. And we assume by doing these things, that's going to equal the result. That's not true. So I want to talk about some habits that are definitely valuable, but they do not necessarily equate to mental toughness. Reading books does not make you tough. Working out will not make you tough. Getting up early will not make you tough. Winning won't make you tough. Making lots of money won't make you tough. Now, what these things will do in the context of a larger goal or mission, they can lead to mental toughness. And they will with some predictability if you do them in the right way. But they're simply means to ends, not the ends in themselves. Any of you guys here with businesses, nobody paid you for your product or service because you wake up early. That's a fact. Michael, when he goes up against his opponent in a ring as a judo fighter, his opponent does not care what books that he read. That's a fact. So it's only so much as reading those books helped expose him to certain realities that he can then grow in the context of some larger goals and visions. All right. Now I want to talk about some fatal mistakes that will make you soft. These are fatal, deadly. There's a lot of mistakes, but I wanted to identify the most. And we're almost done here, so stick with me. So if you guys have questions, make sure you type it in the chat so that I can address them post. All right, so here is what I feel are the most deadly and common mistakes that people make that lead them to becoming mentally soft and really, really out of shape from a mental standpoint. I want you all to avoid these habits like the plague, all right? First is comparing yourself to other people. Now, the reality is that it's natural and very much human to compare. All right. So it's how our brains work, actually. So you all here have some concept of what you feel rich is. You would never know that if you didn't have an internal standard for what poor was to compare to. So the way our brains work is by comparison. So the problem is not so much comparing, it's who you compare yourself to. So most people, especially the soft ones, like to compare themselves to other people who are weaker or softer than them. So for example, if you all in the realm of your work environments, you're the most disciplined one there. Your mistake is calling yourself disciplined because other people are less disciplined than you. But remember, it doesn't matter what other people are. And by you comparing yourself to them, you're only making yourself feel better. It's delusion. So, and you're giving yourself the illusion that you're tough. So this is like an aspiring athlete who, and no knock against Planet Fitness. But if this is like an aspiring athlete working out at Planet Fitness, just so you can feel big and buff compared to some soccer moms, there's zero value in you doing that. It's not going to make you better at all. So instead, what you want to do is compare yourself to your ultimate vision and other extreme mentors who are farther ahead of you. So when you look here at the back of this wall, these are not necessarily people I just admire. These are people who are 20 times better than me at the shit that I'm looking to do. So B Croc, who's the producer of the Sports Motivation Podcast right here, and the Get Your Mind Right, and what I call the Dr. Dre podcast. B Croc, when I go to produce and I got to drop some heat, man, I'm looking at Tupac, because Tupac was the most prolific rapper of all time. He dropped a double album in 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Pac. So yeah, I love Pac's music, but that's not why he's up there. I'm looking at him because when I get ready to record, I'm like, yeah, man, I just did like 3, 4. Nah, you got 8 on the docket today. And B Croc knows that. He's like, yo, what's up? You get done? Like, what's on the docket for today? So I got to hold myself to that standard, not the standard of anybody else. Nobody else really matters. So I need to have a standard for myself, and I need to have an extreme mentor who shows me that way. Like, yo, this is how you do it. The next mistake, eating the cheese. When I was with the Saints in my last year there, Coach Sean Payton, he would tell us, and that was the year the Saints won the Super Bowl. I got released in the middle of that year. But in the beginning, I think we're on like a 4-game winning streak, man. And what he told us, he was like, yo, don't eat the cheese. So the analogy is a mouse trap, right? Put the cheese on there. You eat the cheese, snap, your head is off. And what Sean Payton was talking about is like everyone was talking about how good the Saints were. So Mike, he was like, don't eat the cheese. Don't believe that shit. Don't believe the hype, because as soon as you do, you're done. Just think about it. If you're hungry, right? We associate hunger with being motivated. If you're hungry, what happens once you eat? You're now full. So how many of you guys ever seen that movie Harold and Kumar? Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. I don't know how many of y'all seen as the younger people, but you want to be like Harold and Kumar. And Harold and Kumar were high as shit and wanted to eat some White Castle. And they wouldn't want anything else other than White Castle. And they were hungry for that White Castle. So what you need to be is like Harold and Kumar, and you need to refuse to accept anything than what you ultimately want. So this is the Saints saying, nah, man, fuck that. We haven't won a championship yet. So I'm not believing none of the shit you're saying. And even if you do accomplish it, you then set another goal just to remain hungry. You guys watch basketball, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He won the MVP. And what he say right after? He's like, he told his fans, he said, don't call me the MVP no more. This is the last day you're going to call me the MVP, because I was the MVP last season. It's a new season. So I see people eating the cheese. They start believing shit like, oh yeah, I'm so good. But being full and satisfied, believing you're great, doesn't lend itself well to focused effort and growth. Remember, this is about mental toughness here. This is not about feeling good. So accept compliments, but remember what your goals are. Stay locked in. Now, again, I'm not suggesting either that you should beat yourself up and tell yourself you ain't shit. But the reality is you ain't shit. Now, you ain't shit is not a bad thing. You see what I'm saying? You want to be able to tell yourself, I'm not shit, but that's okay, because I'm still getting better. Next, another deadly mistake. Evaluating yourself based on victories and wins. Evaluating how well you're doing purely off whether or not you're winning or getting the result. So all of us love to win. We want to achieve the results. So while it's true that winning is the goal, it's also not the goal. Does that make sense? So winning, just like losing, is an illusion. So the real goal for us needs to be to evolve and then continue to be at the top of the food chain. That's the real goal for us. So once we understand this, now our job is to modify our mindset towards wins. So we want to value the wins and enjoy them, but we're also going to have perspective when we lose and realize the best and most life-altering lessons come from the losses. That's a fact. That's where you really learn some real shit, when you go through the visceral pain. So how much you win should not determine how hard you go. I was just listening to Nipsey today, and he said, I'm getting paid, but that ain't changed nothing. That's Nipsey. I'm going to share that song with you guys as well. Next, this is the last deadly mistake, all right? This is what I call eating candy. Eating candy. So I'm a top 3 candies. I love anybody like Mambas. I love some Mambas. I love Sour Patch Kids. I like Mike and Ike's. Candy's delicious, right? But guess what? Candy also has 0 nutritional value. And how many of you guys ever ate candy when you were hungry? Like you have this uncomfortable feeling knowing that you haven't really got what you wanted. And then you also kind of don't feel hungry no more. So pity is candy. So seeking pity, that's going around seeking for people to understand you, to listen to you, to feel bad for you. All of us here love to feel understood. Do we not? I love it. Somebody who could listen to me and really understand me. But when we go out of our way to seek that for the sake of feeling bad for ourselves, to reinforce our hopelessness, helplessness, it's this attitude that you ever see the people, they always arguing about how hard they have it. They, nah, nobody got it harder than me. I had to go through this, and this. This is how tough this shit is for me. People arguing, persisting, just begging to stay soft. Now, again, feeling like that is not a crime. That's not the bad thing. It's when you take it to the extreme and then you go and try to reinforce it. So the fact is, nobody really cares that much about how tough you have it. People care about you, but they don't care as much as you'd like. And if that disappoints you, then again, it's time to build some mental toughness. You have to get out of wanting to rely on other people to make you feel understood and accepted, and start accepting yourself and facing your reality on your own. So the sooner you realize that nobody really cares, the faster you'll allow yourself to feel bad and then get to figuring out what to do next. So getting to what to do next, right, doesn't make the bad feelings go away necessarily. But remember, we're building mental toughness here. We're not building the ability to stay depressed, but feeling depressed is nothing wrong with that. But we're not working on the ability to stay depressed. We're working through our depression to get to something higher. So in order to work through it, we got to feel that, but we got to be careful not to eat candy, which is that pity, right? So I want you to avoid candy. Refuse to accept self-pity. Pay attention to when you feel that helplessness and that hopelessness, and then take that as a signal to start moving fast. Take that as a signal. My mom loves me to death. She does. Her name is Lisa. She's the most sweet, caring mother, honestly. And, you know, she was going through a lot when I was coming up and all of that. My mom means well. But guess what? There's some days when I wish that my mom was sitting right next to me. And I wish that she was just rubbing my shoulders and telling me everything is going to be okay. And as nice as that sounds, that's not going to solve any of my problems. And that doesn't mean I can't accept my mother's love. And I do enjoy when she sends me love and all of that type of stuff. And that's great, but just be careful. There's nothing wrong with a few pieces of candy here and there, right? We don't want to get too reliant on that. So if you want to be really mentally tough, you just avoid that shit altogether. You just don't eat candy. You just don't do self-pity. So let's talk about now what mental toughness will look like. And let's do that for business and sport. So let's paint a picture. If you're in business, this is what mental toughness can look like for you. Number one, monitoring your finances on a daily basis, even when shit is not coming in. Reminding yourself of your goals and standards, even though you're not seeing results. That's being tough. Waking up early every day. For those of you who have families, for those of you who got work to do, but you also got to go to work or you got training to do. Getting up early so you can get that shit done, not making excuses about why you can't work out, why you can't build your business, etc. Refusing to eat anything until you're complete with that day's work. Just try that. Try that. Say, you know what? I'm not eating shit until I'm done with this. That builds mental toughness. It's a practical method by which to do it. Meeting with your mastermind group every week and allowing your peers to give you scathing reviews on your performances. This is meeting up with your fellow teammates and just literally just 100% honesty, scathing reviews, no seasoning salt. This is each night evaluating your effort levels towards your task while identifying small ways to improve. It's being greedy with all of the ways that you can improve. It's for those of you who create content, putting it out, even though you're scared and unsure about who will show up. Doing this shit. There was a point, Brandon, you know this, there was a point when nobody listening to the podcast. Nobody, not a soul. And I had to put it out. I had no idea who would listen to it. And I remember I got one email. I got to go back and see who it was, man. One email. And they were like, I remember it was a female, and she's like, "Oh, this podcast awesome." It was just like the heavens opened up. Yes, somebody heard. I didn't know if anyone was listening. It's hard, man. It's hard shit to put your heart and soul into some shit and put it out for the people to judge. That's why I can't stand people who judging artists and shit. You know, critics. Somebody just put their life's work into this shit and you're gonna judge it. Hey, but that's what it is. But it takes courage to do that. It takes courage, man. So the next time you see athletes and you start hating on them and shit, hating on LeBron or whoever else, realize what it takes to be LeBron. You got to go out and put your heart and soul onto the court and literally have the world to judge you and expose yourself to that emotional pain. So that's what you need to do if you want to be a fraction of the successful that LeBron is. Reaching out to someone you admire to ask if they will mentor you. You don't have shit to lose. They don't know you anyway. Reading a book that is the direct opposite of what your current mentality and approach is, just for the sake of understanding. Good books will give you anxiety. They will challenge what you know to be true. Giving weekly reviews to your team of specific things they need to do to improve. Asking your team to give you specific feedback on what you need to do better. Continuing to wake up early, even during holidays and vacations, so that you can prevent mental sloppiness. This is continuing to refuse to break your momentum. Instead of being the person who's like, "Oh, you know, I've worked hard. You could use a couple weeks off." You're full of shit. And you know it too, because you know how you feel after the 2 weeks off. And we got to pay attention to our own sort of internal, you know, feelings, physical and emotional. But I know how I feel when I take too much time off. And I imagine all you guys here, you fuck with me, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So we're very similar in that way, right? So fasting 4 to 5 days at a time while still working your regular routine. Try it. Try it. B Croc, I dare you, try it. Fast 4 to 5 days at a time while still doing the same shit. Running, all of that. And see, when you break down, you might break down after day 3. That's all right. Now you know, right? Then you try the shit again. There's nothing wrong with it. See, again, it's being able to expose ourselves to potential failure. You don't take on a challenge just because you know you will meet it. That's not mentally tough. You take on a challenge that you could very well possibly fail. That's mentally tough. And then expose yourself to the idea that you could fail, the very reality that you could fail. Let's talk about mental toughness in sports. For those of you athletes, read books for at least 30 minutes a day of all the world's greatest athletes. Don't read books from nobody else, just the best in the world. So Michael, that's books from Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Michael Johnson. Every fucking sport, you can find a top level athlete who's written several books. You should read all of them. Soak yourself in that mindset. You will go through your shit and you will realize, damn, I'm not doing half of what I could do. Like, for real. I'm not doing like a fraction of the shit that I could do. Just read Kobe Bryant's Mamba Mentality. Like, oh, that's why he's Kobe. Exactly. Sticking to a strict and strategic meal plan, regardless of the season that you're in. Could you do that? That's mentally tough. Stick to that shit. Be in game day shape all year round. Weigh yourself every day and track the results. Junior Seau, rest in peace. One of the world's greatest linebackers in the NFL. He used to literally weigh himself every single day. He was always the weight, always ready. That's why he played like 15 plus years in the league at a high level. He never let himself get off track in terms of his body. He always was paying attention. Doing conditioning tests once per week when no one asks you to. So those of you soccer players, the beep test, football players, we always had conditioning tests. What if you did that every week on schedule without anyone asking you to? You held yourself to the standard of that test. What if you created your own tests for conditioning and executed them regularly? and by schedule? Would you not be in top level shape? You know that feeling when you're getting ready to do the test? Butterflies in your stomach, palms sweating and shit. What if you expose yourself to that pressure every single week? That shit would be easy for you. What if you evaluated yourself after each and every training and practice based on specific criteria of results and actions so you can get better? What if you watch film of each and every time you perform and identify all the mistakes made and how to improve? What if you trained with people better and faster and stronger than you as much as possible? What if you did that? What if you trained while you were fasting? I'm not advising this during the season. Benito, what if you had Michael go through 2 days of training, just no food, just to test his resolve, his mental resolve? He's not gonna die. You're not gonna make him run a marathon, right? Just to test him, because then his opponent is never gonna know that level of emotional pain. I love the Rocky movies. You guys watch Rocky, right? Isn't that what every Rocky montage is about? You gotta go through the fire, man. If you're an athlete, your physical body, you got to expose yourself to those challenges. Be in bed by the same time every night during the season to ensure proper rest. It's also a challenge. It's hard. It's hard for me to get to bed on time. I get up early, but I have a hard time getting to bed on time. It takes discipline. Get to the field or court each and every day to go through your pregame routine. Practice. Visualize every potential bad outcome that could happen. Rehearse your response mentally. Feel the anxiety. Imagine what it would be like to play hurt. You know it's possible, right? You know you could be hurt. You know you're an athlete, right? What if you prepared for that? Go on a 1-week retreat. I've never done this, but this would be dope. This is a challenge. This is what it could look like. Go on a 1-week retreat in the woods, in a cabin somewhere. Just only you, no phone, just train by yourself for a week. Expose yourself to all the weaknesses, how lonely you feel, the lapses in motivation. You have to train yourself to be motivated. That's what it can look like. All right, so here's what I would do if I were you right now. Here's the plan. First of all, I want you to review this entire Mental Toughness Masterclass. Review this document. Go through this again. I'm going to send you guys the recording of this. You guys now have this document. Print it out. Read this shit again. I want you to identify at least 3 things that you can do to take your mental toughness to the next level. Obviously, you ain't got to do all of this shit. You're not going to. I haven't even done a few of these things. It's not what the point is. The point is identifying some challenges that you can expose yourself to for the purpose of growth within the context of a goal. Exposing yourself to pain. So what Lisa finds painful, it doesn't matter if I find that painful or not. It's all relative. She needs to expose herself to her pain so that she could grow. You see what I'm saying? And this is where you can liberate yourself in that way. It's not about anybody else. This is a battle with you. This is a battle with your own weaknesses, with your own negative beliefs. So go through, identify at least 3 things. And they can be small things like, I'm gonna wake up early at the crack of dawn every day for the next 7 days. I'm gonna try fasting for 2 days. It's something real small. And then of course you take actions to implement now. And then of course, for those of you who are ready, enroll for Killer Instinct. If you want to take your mental toughness, confidence, overall dominance to insane new levels. So you can go ahead and click on that link if you want to enroll. You guys have heard, you guys know this is what I do. So this is just a little sample. If you want to actually start systemizing all of this shit, taking it to the next level and develop those mindsets, the systems, and the structure that it takes to be a killer in the jungle, as I like to call it, to be somebody who is at the top of the food chain, for someone who's not only concerned with winning and getting results, with someone who's concerned with systematically dominating. Do you understand what I mean by that? Being the best that they can be and constantly pushing themselves to those levels. So you can click on that link there and schedule a call with me.